Hi, and welcome to Women's Healthspan News and Views. I'm Dr. Pat McShane, and I've had a passion for women's health for many years since I was first in my training in medical school and then as a gynecologist. Initially, my clinical work was primarily in infertility and hormonal disorders, but in the last several years, I have been moving my interest more over to women in the later span of their life. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this series. Today, I want to explore one of the myths of lifespan and aging, and that is that lifespan is primarily a function of your family history, your genetics. So if everyone else in your family died young, you're just expecting that for yourself. And conversely, if people live to a ripe old age, you may feel like you can get away with anything because, hey, what the heck, longevity is in my family. And it turns out, based on twin studies, that about 10, maybe 20% of longevity is due to genetics. And we're going to come back and talk about this at the end of this short video today, because it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds initially. It seems like for the first 7 or 8 decades of our lives, it's more about lifestyle that gets us to be, let's say, 80 years old. And that is avoidance of smoking primarily, moderate exercise levels, good diet and avoidance of obesity, and managing stress, sleep, and a few other things like that. We should also mention that as a general background, longevity has gone up dramatically in the last number of centuries, and this is primarily because of sanitation, clean water, and availability of good foods for people. To some extent, availability of medical care, treatment of injuries and infectious diseases, and so on. But in the last several decades, our life expectancy went up even further. And this has been due primarily to treatment of age-related diseases with conventional medical therapy, primarily heart disease and cancer, although diabetes and blood pressure issues belong on that list as well. The issue with that is often the folks who have been successfully treated for these issues have a diminished quality of life. And that's something that we're going to be coming back to over and over in this series, which is quality of life. As I mentioned, the relationship between genetics and lifestyle is more complicated than we initially thought. There is a whole field of endeavor now, scientific and medical endeavor, called epigenetics. Epi is from the Greek word, which means on or above. And the epigenetics refers to factors that attach themselves along the chain of DNA that you have in each of your cells. These factors can turn some genes on and other genes off. And we've known about this with respect to cancer for a while, but it didn't feature in on general aging so much until the last couple of decades, where people have been looking at specific sites on a person's DNA to find out whether these sites are turned on, turned off, in some way modified by what we call the epigenome, these set of factors that modify the DNA. And what has been found is that there are a number of sites, hundreds in some cases, that determine one's aging. We now have what we call aging clocks. You can order up online an aging clock to try to figure out whether your particular DNA looks like it's been more put through the ringer than your chronological age. So let's say me at 73, my aging clock could look like that of a 78-year-old or an 85-year-old if I had been not doing the right things or also just genetically unlucky. And conversely, in theory, my 73-year-old cells might look like they're 68, in which case I might have a longer life expectancy. This has just been worked out in the last number of years, and I expect that there will be a lot more to be said about that in the future with further work. So basically, back to the initial question, yes, genetics does determine aging to some extent, but a lot of that is how you have modified your genetics along your lifespan, and lifestyle issues, the ones we mentioned already: avoidance of smoking, moderate exercise, moderation of intake of alcohol, good diet, avoidance of obesity, stress management, sleep management. These are the things that are going to determine your healthy lifestyle for the most part. So we don't get off scot-free here, even if we have good genetics. And if we don't have good genetics, or we don't think we have good genetics, there still may be lots of opportunity for us to optimize our healthy lifespan, which is what Healthspan is. So something you might do today is just think back on the aspects of your own lifestyle history that might have impacted on your DNA, and the list that we mentioned: exercise, diet, smoking, is the ones that have been most proven. And just think about that, and if there's an option here to modify some of those lifestyle choices. So if you're interested in this kind of material, I hope you will subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon as we talk more and more about these various aspects of what we can do to determine our health span.